What is up, FLocers? That is my fellow lockers and aspiring lockers. If you're wondering why my hair is looking like this, it's because it is the dreaded time. It is time for the retie. And regardless of whether for you this is a dreaded time or a super exciting time where you're like, yes, I'm about to get my retie done and have my head and scalp looking fresh, no matter what, it's something that we got to get done. So let's go ahead and get into it. And I want to give you all some tips and tricks while I'm in the process. So here we go. The first thing I want to advise when doing your reties yourself is that you make sure that you have all of the supplies on hand and ready when you get ready to do your reties. So as you can see, I've already got my hair sectioned off right here. With this, I have some other hair ties very close and readily available. Also in my little kit, I have clips, which I would advise to use. I don't use them, but do as I say, not as I do. Have clips, whether you choose to use the long duckbill ones or you want to use the shorter non-duckbill ones. Don't know what they're called, but clips. And then of course your retightening tool, the tool that you choose to use to retighten your locks. I prefer this cheap plastic tool that I whittle down into this tiny thing because it is easy for me to maneuver, easy for me to get my locks through, and I'm just not dealing with the issues of some of the other issues that I come across with other lock tools that I've tried. And as I said already, I think it's important to have your hair sectioned off. I have already done the rest of my head, so that's why none of this is sectioned off, because I already went through and retied all of this. So all I have left is here. But when I was starting, I had all of my hair up in two different ponytails, and then as I go along, I take one down at a time. Everyone has their own different way of doing it, but that's the way that I do. I put it in these little hair ties, and then I take one down at a time that I'm working on. Again, I would advise using the clips to clip your hair away to make sure that you are not going to be joining any locks, but I choose for myself not to use the clips. Would I advise that? No. Is that what I do? Absolutely. And then as I take one down, I go ahead and, as much as I possibly like to do, I just kind of do my version of straightening the part. So I kind of make sure that all the hair that I want to go into this lock is here. If there's some excess hair that has come out of the lock, then I will kind of loop it around that lock, and then I just go in for the retie. I would also advise starting from the back of your head. I always start from the back and work my way up. Again, to each their own. You got to figure out what works best for you. But for me, I just find that when you start from the back of your head, if you need to do your retightenings in multiple sittings and not just in one sitting, if you start in the back of your head, then it's a lot less noticeable if you've only got half of your head retied and you need to go to the store or something like that. But the great thing about reties is that you can literally retie any part of your head and it's not that noticeable. There's not that much of a difference. Like if you look at the side that I have retied, yes, you can tell that I've retied. You can tell that the scalp is looking cleaner, but the part that I haven't retied, it's not like it's looking horrible. Does it look like it could use some maintenance and some help? Absolutely. But if I went to the store with this part undone and this part done, it's not like people are going to be like, ooh, why'd you come out the house looking like that? Pro of doing reties. Another tip that I would say when doing your own reties is to make sure that you take your time and go slowly. Now granted, as you get more advanced with doing this, as you've been doing it for a long time, you're going to get quicker with it, and it's not going to take you as long to do your passes and things of that nature. But You still want to make sure that you are taking your time when doing it, because if you speed up too much, then you end up leaving a margin of error, and you could end up combining locks. You could end up snatching your hair out and doing more than you anticipate doing. So it's important to pace yourself and take your time. And also with pacing yourself, you want to make sure that you are doing this when you are awake and alert. Now, of course, you may be doing this late at night, so you may be tired, but you don't want to do this when you're falling asleep. I can assure you that if you're over there falling asleep, you're not going to be paying attention to your rotations. You may be going through the same rotation multiple times, causing potential holes, just doing all sorts of stuff, combining locks that you then have to either try to fix or snip in between them to try to separate them later. So it ends up causing just a mess. So it's better to do this maybe not when you're fully alert, but at least when you're not over there yawning and falling asleep. I get that everybody, has places to be, and sometimes you just got to get your hair done, and you might be dead tired after work or whatever, but you don't want to end up harming your locks and making it worse just because you wanted to get through it before you had to go to bed. So I would definitely advise cutting it off before it's too late. Not cutting it off, you don't want to cut off your locks. Stopping the retie process and just starting the next day fresh when you are rested. Something else that I would advise you to do while you're doing your reties is to find something that can help to entertain you, whether that's a show on Hulu or Netflix or Disney Plus. Find something to entertain you. Find a movie to watch, find a podcast to listen to, some audiobooks or something of that nature, so that you can stay entertained and not get bored while you're doing your reties, because they do take a long time. And yeah, it just makes the process go by a little bit smoother. It makes it a little bit more enjoyable and a lot less daunting. All right, something else that I would advise you to try to do your best to do is to end in the same direction or end in the direction that you want your locks to fall. Now, granted, this is not always necessarily achievable or an easy task to do, but the last thing you want is to have all of your locks laying in this direction except for one that's pointing in this direction or sticking up or out just because you didn't end your rotation going in the direction that you want your locks to lay. So know what direction you want your locks to lay, and just make sure that whenever you are getting close to finishing, that you're ending in that direction. Even if that means if you don't get through your full 4 rotation or 3-point rotation, sometimes it's okay to compromise that last rotation to go ahead and make sure that you stop in the correct direction so that your lock lays the proper way. Something else I really want to advise against is making sure that you do not tighten too close to the scalp. It is very, very enticing to make sure that you get as close as you can with your reties, because you want to have that crisp look. You want that scalp to be showing. You want your retie to last for as long as possible, so that it can look fresh and crisp, and for you to be able to go as long as possible in between having to do your next one. But I can assure you that if you tie it too tightly, you will regret it, whether it's because you're having headaches or you lay your head down on your pillow at night to go to sleep and it hurts, or you're pulling out hair and you end up having hair thinning. I promise you, just go ahead and reduce that rotation or whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that you're not tightening too close to the scalp. Now you're saying, DJ, are you trying to say that you never retighten your locks too close to the scalp? No, I'm not saying that. We're human, we make mistakes. Sometimes I do accidentally go too tight to the scalp because I get distracted, or I think, oh, I got another rotation left before, it's too late and it's too tight. So if you're questioning and you're like, can I get another one in? If you have to question whether you can get another rotation in, then you should probably just stop. Unless you know for sure, just go ahead and stop, because you'd be better off having to do your retwist, or I keep saying retwist. You'd be better off having your hair grow out a little bit faster and being in need of a retie a few days earlier than to make it too tight and then to end up pulling the bulbs or the follicles from your scalp because you're making it too tight. So don't over tighten. Another tip that you can use is, depending on who you are and how you function, you may need to use a mirror to see what you're doing. I personally work by feel, and so I just feel my way through. Again, do as I say, not as I do. I would not recommend that to you if you don't feel comfortable with feeling your way through, because you can easily combine locks by feeling through, not using clips. But I feel comfortable with feeling my way through my reties, and so that's what I do. But you may not feel comfortable with doing that, and so you may need to sit in front of a mirror or have some type of a computer screen or something that's going so that you can see yourself in the mirror or in the display monitor, in the camera viewfinder or something, so that you know what you're doing, where your retie is going, and things of that nature. All right, and there we go. We have another successful retie in the books. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please make sure to subscribe so that you can join the flock, and also smash that like button so I can know what type of content you all are enjoying. And remember, be kind to each other. Go out of your way to give people an extra smile and just say something nice, some words of affirmation and encouragement. And whatever time of the day you are watching, I hope that you have a wonderful one. Bye.